Oh, there we go. Hey, there we go. A little technological difficulty there. But what's up, fantasy owners? Now you're probably wondering, what's Chris doing a video on a Monday for? And who's this guy? Well, special edition this week. The schedule with me is kind of squirrely this week, so we're doing a video earlier in the week for the Fantasy Football Stock Report. And I don't know if you guys remember from earlier in the year when I had a cameo phone call come in. Not expected, seriously, did not plan it. But this is my fellow co-owner now for what now? 7 years? 8 years?
Something like that.
Something like that. Nate Hettinger, co-owner of the Dragon Wings with my team. We are now sitting at 8-3 this week. We have another win this week for us. We're in the playoffs, so that's good for us. Hopefully you guys are chugging along that path as well. Another Sunday slated games in the books, but now since we're doing the show on a Monday, we are going to be recapping the Sunday action and then previewing these Monday games tonight between New England and Carolina. So I filled Nate in before the show started on how things kind of work here. We go position by position breakdown on all the games from the week and then look forward to their matchups next week. So let's just dive right in and start with the quarterbacks, looking at how they fared this week. And the top quarterback, kind of a bit of a surprising name there at the top of the list, Nate. Big Ben Roethlisberger this week of the Steelers.
That is.
I mean, going up against Detroit. Detroit's defense usually very tough with those pass rushers with Dominic Sue and Nick Fairley. But Big Ben, 29 of 45, 367 yards with 4 touchdowns, 39 fantasy points this week, and a very high passer rating. So normally we've not seen games out of that from Big Ben this year, where he puts up these like buku numbers.
Yeah, you're definitely doing a jig if you got him on your fantasy team.
Absolutely, you are. Absolutely, I like that. Absolutely, yeah. If you started Ben this week, huge dividends for you. And, you know, really for me, the way it looks with him, he's getting, I think, maybe better with his receiving core. He's getting guys like, you know, Emmanuel Sanders involved, Jericho Cotchery, kind of an under-the-radar guy, getting him involved. Obviously, he's got Antonio Brown as his main weapon, but he's getting these guys more involved. Heath Miller, he's got his tight end back healthy, so maybe that's why he's coming on stronger of late. If you look at his matchup next week, he's going to Cleveland. Now, that's a little bit, again, a tougher matchup, but he's got Joe Hayden in the secondary to worry about. He'll probably focus on Brown, but that'll, again, get his other receivers opportunities. So I would say if you're in a pinch next week, maybe you can count on him as a borderline 1-2 option for you next week.
And I'd say you just made reference to it, being able to spread the ball around to top-line guys.
Yes.
Cotchery's been in the league for a while.
Long time.
He knows what's up. He
Yes.
knows what he's doing.
Yeah. So definitely a guy you can definitely put in a pinch. Carson Palmer of Arizona, he was expected also to actually have a big week this week because I told you guys last week, the Cardinals playing the Jaguars, start your Cardinals. Usually you can start anybody against Jacksonville's pathetic excuse for an NFL defense.
I like that, yeah.
You know, I think I told you the comment that I made on here one year. We know 3 things are guaranteed: death, taxes, and the Jaguars suck.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So, but yeah, Carson Palmer had a good week.
Terrible, but true.
It is true, unfortunately. Sorry, Jaguar fans. 30 of 42, 419 yards. That's very un-Carson Palmer-like. But
that's good for any
quarterback,
almost 400 yards.
Yes, and 2 touchdowns. So 28 points. Definitely was a strong option this week. Looking at next week, the Cards are going up against the Colts. Bruce Arians going up against his former team. So, again, you know, the Colts against the pass this year, what would you say? Not stellar, but
not great, but not terrible.
Okay, so again, if you were in a pinch at quarterback, your number one's on a bye week, would you say Palmer's a good fill-in for you?
I'd say so.
Yeah, I think you can definitely count on him another week. Alex Smith of Kansas City, he was also a nice surprise. We got him as insurance off the wire because Matt Ryan, our starter, is not doing so well. But Smith actually put up pretty decent numbers against Denver. 21 of 45, so not great completion percentage-wise, but 230 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also ran 5 times for 52 yards. I didn't know Alex Smith was a runner.
News to me.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised by that. So, and normally he doesn't put up these big double-digit points, but if you're getting that out of a solid number 2 quarterback, then that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And next week, Kansas City plays San Diego, and that's really not a bad matchup either, considering San Diego's defense hasn't been stellar this year. So again, if you're in a pinch, if you're looking for a guy, if you're not sold on number 1 like ours have been lately, maybe you can put in Smith there as a decent starting option as well. These next few guys usually can rely on every single week. RG3 against Philly. I told you guys to go with him. The Eagles' defense not great. He had a great week this week with 26 fantasy points. You can keep rolling with RG3. Washington next week is... Well, actually, you can't because Washington is on a bye next week, so you won't have RG3 next week. Normally he's a must start, but they're on a bye next week. So I think it's only Washington and Seattle, I believe, that are on byes next week, I believe. 6, 8, 10, 12. I'm going to take that back just a few more, but a couple more teams on bye next week. But Washington I know is for sure and Seattle for sure. So you won't have those guys, but usually you keep rolling with RG3. Same game, Pittsburgh-Detroit. Matthew Stafford obviously usually always puts up consistent fantasy numbers.
Yeah.
26 points league. I mean, hello, when you have Calvin Johnson as your receiver,
Definitely.
You're going to be putting up buku numbers every week.
He wasn't named Megatron for nothing.
That's exactly right. Yes. Now a name on here I was not expecting to see, and apparently Oakland did not have the services of Terrell Pryor this week. Matt McGloin apparently started for Oakland this week against Houston. So that must mean that Terrell Pryor either was hurt or injured, something we don't know about regarding Pryor. McGloin was 18 of 32, 197 yards, did have 3 touchdowns for 25 points, but this is the first time we've seen McGloin actually in game action. And he was going up against the Texans D, which really has kind of been underwhelming this year.
Yeah.
Not exactly great. So I don't know if you can really rely on him going forward, plus the fact that we don't know Pryor's health status. Oakland next week is going up against Tennessee, and the Titans D has been a little bit more of a tougher unit this season. So I wouldn't really be sold on McGloin just yet. Maybe more of a desperate number 3, or if you're really desperate, maybe a bye week filler if you don't have RG3 or Russell Wilson. But other than that, not sold on him. Speaking of Russell Wilson, big week for him as usual this week. 22 fantasy points this week. Only had to throw 18 passes, 13 of 18, 230, 2 touchdowns. But here's the thing, going against Minnesota, Seattle pounded the run against him.
Yeah.
They used Marshawn Lynch a lot, and that's what you have to do against that Vikings D. So Wilson didn't have to throw much, but he still had the 2 touchdowns. He gets Percy Harvin back, so he's getting his weapons now fully rounded.
Yeah.
So Wilson's going to be okay the rest of the year. Won't have him next week because of the bye, so make sure you're aware of that. But just keep rolling with him further out for your playoff push. Mike Glennon of Tampa Bay. Decent against Atlanta, though Atlanta's defense has been definitely one of the bigger disappointments of the year this year. The Falcons as a whole have been a major disappointment. Expecting to contend in the NFC, and completely the bottom has fallen out from under them.
We would know.
Yeah, we would know, considering we have one Matt Ryan as our quarterback, and we lost Julio Jones for the year. So, yes, we would know this. But Glennon had 21 fantasy points, 20 of 23, 231, 2 touchdowns. He has really filled in nicely for Tampa Bay once they got rid of Josh Freeman. Glennon has put up good numbers. He's getting his top receiver, Vincent Jackson, involved. And really the running game now is taking a big hit. They've lost 2 running backs for the year due to injury. They're now relegated to 3rd, 4th string guys. So they've got to get their passing game involved, and that's where Glennon's going to put up good numbers.
Okay.
So Tampa next week is also they're at Detroit. So if you just see what Big Ben did to Detroit, if Big Ben can do that, maybe Glennon can have a good week next week. So I'd say again, strong number 2 with upside or bye week filler. E.J. Manuel of Buffalo. Boy, I think Buffalo fans are good to see him back fully healthy after he suffered the sprained knee earlier in the year. They got him back. Going up against the Jets, which normally is a tougher defense, but Manuel was 20 of 28, 245, 2 touchdowns, had a 121.9 passer rating. That's pretty strong. 21 fantasy points.
Nice.
Again, I think a number 2 with upside moving forward. Buffalo next week. Buffalo is one of those teams on bye, so you won't have Manuel next week. But again, going forward, if you need a strong number 2 option, Manuel could be a good plug and play guy for you.
Yeah.
Nick Foles of Philly. I've said it on here multiple times, Nate. He should be starter in Philly the rest of the year. Michael Vick shouldn't touch the football again the rest of the year.
Really,
because what Foles has done with that Eagles offense, with the fact that he's getting these receivers involved and putting up really good numbers, I think the offense with that Chip Kelly offense is more tailored to Foles' game than to Vick's.
And maybe that's what they're going for anyway. I mean, Vick is getting up there in his football career.
He is.
Football age.
Yes. And he's gone through a lot of injuries. He's had the hamstring issue this year, which takes a long time to recover from for like running quarterbacks. Any running player, it takes a lot. So
I'm still surprised to even see him in the NFL after.
Yes. But I think Foles has gotten a good jump on the starting job. He had 21 fantasy points last week. He even had a rushing touchdown, which is again odd for Nick Foles, But if he's trying to be Vic-like, then
usually it's odd for any quarterback.
I know. Yeah, unless you have like a gifted skill set where you can be a runner. If you've been a runner like all throughout college, then normally not. But no, Foles is putting up really good numbers. Now again, Philly is also one of those teams that's on a bye next week, so you won't have him or his weapons. But you can keep rolling with him again. I think strong number 2 with upside going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Andrew Luck, decent week this week, 18 fantasy points, 23 of 36, 232 against the Titans. Also did have a rushing touchdown. We've seen Luck rush for touchdowns a lot this year, so that's definitely in his repertoire of work. So next week for the Colts, again, it's at Arizona. That's tough because Arizona's defense has been strong this year. That secondary with Patrick Peterson, Tyrann Mathieu, these guys making big hits, making interceptions. It's going to be a challenge for him, I think. But
a
little bit. So you wouldn't say he's a must start, but maybe if you're, desperate, borderline 1-2.
Yeah.
We mentioned Matt Ryan, and at least the last time he played Tampa Bay, he went buku, but that's also when he had all of his weapons. This week, still a decent performance, 18 points, 19 of 36, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns. But again, the bugaboo for Ryan of late has been the interceptions. He had 2 this week. That's been a real bugaboo for him lately, throwing picks. So really, you can't really rate Ryan as a must start every single week. More of a 2, or depending on matchup. Now next week he goes up against the Saints on Thursday night.
Ouch.
That's going to be a big time challenge for Matty. So again, not a must start by any means. If it were you and me, based on our quarterback situation, I think we lean Smith next week.
Yeah.
Based on what happened this week with a better matchup, I'd lean Smith.
It's the Saints.
Yeah.
After all.
Yes, their defense is going to be gung-ho. Andy Dalton has had kind of an up and down year. He had that stretch where he did really, really well and then kind of regressed. And this week, 17 fantasy points, though, still. Going up against that tough Cleveland secondary, 13 of 27, only 93 yards, but he made up for it with 3 touchdowns. So, maybe he's getting his tight ends involved. He has been getting Tyler Eifert involved and Jermaine Gresham. And, of course, he's got A.J. Green to throw to. So anytime you have those weapons around you, it's going to be huge for you. Next week, Cincinnati, it looks like another one of those teams that's on a bye. Yes, so you won't have Dalton next week, but again, I still see him as a solid number 2 going forward the rest of the way. Colin Kaepernick had a nice bounce-back week. Now, Kaepernick's been really struggling of late. Last week I ran it on here. He only had 2 fantasy points, and this is the Niners quarterback. And Kaepernick's running ability is usually really strong. But here's the good thing. He's getting his weapons back. Vernon Davis, healthy. Mario Manningham is back healthy. He's going to get Michael Crabtree back soon. So now that he's getting these guys healthy again, I think Kaepernick's only going to get better and better as the season goes on, the playoff push goes on. I think he's only going to get better. He had 17 points against the Saints this week, 17-31, buck 27, 2 touchdowns. Also rushed 3 times for 25. So I like him going forward. Next week, again, it looks like San Francisco is also one of those teams on bye. So there's 6 teams on bye this coming week. So you're not going to have Cap this week either. But going forward, again, I would say, again, kind of in that 1-2 zone. Not a must start, but again, certainly one with upside, getting all these weapons back. Ryan Tannehill in Miami. Still not sold on him. He's really kind of hit and miss. His receiving core is not like the big names. Mike Wallace isn't getting involved that much. Drew Brees had kind of an off week this week. He only had 16 fantasy points. You usually expect a lot more from Drew.
Yeah.
30-43, though. He still throws the ball a lot. 305 with a touchdown and a pick. But I think you're still okay with him. Peyton Manning, you're obviously going to keep rolling with him no matter the matchup. He had 16 points this week. And then after that, pretty big drop-off after Peyton. May form this week.
Oh, no. Not really. I mean, because after that, you're looking at, Eli and Rivers, normally must-start options, but they were kind of disappointing this week. They had the pick. They were underwhelming. But again, they throw the ball a lot, so you can probably keep rolling with them. Josh McCown of Chicago filling in for the injured Jay Cutler. Only had 14 fantasy points this week, so I think Chicago fans are going to really want to see Cutler back very soon. Again, and after this, Chad Henne, Joe Flacco. You're normally not starting these guys in leagues. Case Keenum only had 10 fantasy points. That's surprising, considering going up against the Raiders. That was, to me, that's surprising because Keenum's done really well of late. And,
yeah, he has.
And getting that starting job in Houston over Matt Schaub.
Certainly better than Schaub.
Yes, absolutely. But 13-24, buck 70, only 1 touchdown and a pick. So I'm surprised that he was only able to do that against the Raiders. Houston next week, though. Oh boy, you're gonna love Keenum this week, though. Jacksonville.
Oh Lord.
So you can start Keenum this week. If you didn't like him this week, you'll reap the rewards next week.
I tell you what, and if I'm either in Houston or a Houston Texans fan, which I kind of am, I'm breathing a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Schaub, you suck. I'm just gonna say that right now.
Schaub, you suck. That's pretty much clear cut as you can get. But
how much time do you give the guy, and he just blows, and then Keenum just comes in and says, "Oh yeah, I can take it. I'm okay," and he just blows him out the water.
But and then after that again, Jason Campbell, Scott Tolzien, Matt Sims, Matt Castle. You're not starting these guys normally in leagues. They're all free agents anyway. So okay,
old.
and old and old. All right, moving on to the running backs for this past week. Number 1 at the top of the list, and again, a surprising name, and we talked about it. Bobby Rainey from Tampa Bay. The guy filling in for the injured Doug Martin and Mike James in Tampa Bay. Surprisingly, had a big week. 30 carries for 163 yards with 2 touchdowns. 34 fantasy points. Well,
okay,
it looks
that is a good God.
It looks like Tampa's found their guy to fill in the rest of the year. Now, they acquired Rainey from Cleveland. He was on the depth chart buried in Cleveland behind McGahee, behind Ogbonnaya, behind all these guys. So apparently, if he can be the main weapon in Tampa, and again, you're looking for a running back help, maybe that's the guy you turn to. Tampa playing Detroit next week. Again, kind of a little bit of a stronger defense. But again, who else are you going to hand the ball off to in Tampa Bay? If he's the guy, again, I can certainly see him being a starting option as a 2 or even a flex option, even if you play in a league with a flex player. Now, I don't know if you know what that. Do you know what the term flex player means?
I'm not.
Because our league doesn't have a flex. A flex player, basically what a flex is it's a 4th kind of position where you can put in either a running back or a wideout. Like, usually put in a flex a player that's both involved in the running and the passing game.
Okay, yeah.
So that's why they call it a flex, because he's used at both positions. So that's when I say flex, that's what that tends to mean. So, but yeah, Rainey, if he's going to get carries like that, on a weekly basis.
I'd say so, yeah.
Yeah, he could be a guy you have. These next couple guys you use every single week. Shady McCoy, LaShawn McCoy in Philadelphia. We know how good he is. And against the Redskins, you know me, I call them their butter defense. You heard me use that term. I say it on here every week. 20 carries, 77 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also caught 4 targets from Nick Foles for 73 yards. So even McCoy is getting involved in the passing game with Foles under center in Philly. So that's nice to see. 26 points. Again, you won't have the Eagles this week, so you won't have McCoy. So make sure you have better running back options to fill his void. Same goes with Marshawn Lynch. You're not going to have beast mode this coming week because he's on bye. But another big week for him, 17 carries. Now, he only had 54 rushing yards, but he did make up for it with 3 total touchdowns, 2 rushing and 1 receiving. That's the good thing about Lynch. He doesn't have to put up a lot of yards, but as long as he finds the end zone, he's putting up points, and he's been our stud all year. We drafted him first round, and he's played like it.
I mean, you can score from 1 yard out. It's still 6 points.
Exactly. Yes. Right? Yeah. So that's always huge. So, again, if you're a Lynch owner like us, make sure you have a running back option next week. We do in the back with Danny Woodhead, so we're going to put Woodhead in for him next week. So just make sure you have someone in your backfield to fill that spot. Rashad Jennings of Oakland, he has filled in really nicely for the surprising off-injured Darren McFadden as the starter in Oakland. You just kind of know it with him every year with McFadden. He's going to get an injury at some point, and it happened again this year with whether it's a hamstring or groin or ankle or whatever. It's usually always something with DMC. So. But Jennings has filled in nicely, 22 carries, 150 yards with a touchdown this week, 21 fantasy points for his owners. And there is talk actually in Oakland, and I read this on Roto World last night, that he could eventually get the starting job over McFadden, even though McFadden comes back healthy. That'd be a big shakeup, but again, if Jennings is doing this good a job with McFadden out, why wouldn't you make him the starter?
Exactly. I mean, if something's broke, you fix it, and then... if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly.
Now, I guess with Rashad
Jennings,
it ain't broke no more.
Exactly. So yeah, and Oakland next week again going up against that Tennessee defense. I mean, it's not the best matchup, but again, if you're desperate, I think you could play Jennings as a number 2.
Yeah,
I really think you could. Donald Brown.
Say what?
Donald Brown, 5th highest scoring running back this week, Nate.
That's unusual.
Well, but again. What has Trent Richardson done for us lately? He's
Absolutely.
been a big time. He's been one of the biggest fantasy disappointments of the year. I have to say.
And I remember when he came to Indiana.
When I called the trade,
touting him.
Yes.
And I was like, what?
Well, and everybody. It wasn't just me, Nate. It was everybody. Everybody was expecting the Colts were going to the Super Bowl. Now that we have Trent Richardson, now we have a running game.
Really?
Yeah. That's what I heard anyway.
Kind of reminds me of that old little ditty on The Price is Right.
The fail horn, yes. Certainly is what it's looked like. Donald Brown, 21 fantasy points last week against Tennessee. 14 carries, 80 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, Nate, let's ask the question. Should Donald Brown be the Colts starter going forward?
Honestly, I don't know. Anybody can have his big breakout week and then absolutely suck the next. So
yeah.
I think, honestly, I think Donald Brown is kind of inconsistent.
True. This is true.
Colts. Of course, Colts are my team, so I kind of follow them more than anybody.
Right.
And it's like he's up and down to me.
So against Arizona next week, what would you say? Maybe a desperate number 3 or a flex?
Maybe.
Probably.
Yeah.
That you just really can't, again, with that inconsistency, really don't know.
Yeah.
And they still have Richardson. It's not like they're going to completely give up on Richardson. They're not. They wouldn't have spent that much of a draft pick on him to completely give up on him. But so.
Why is he sucking?
That is the $1 million question. That really is.
Is he not used to the system? Is he just not?
I think it takes time.
Well?
I think it does. I think it takes time. I think
Certainly would for me. I wake up one morning, I'm with
Cleveland.
Cleveland, and then, oh, by the way,
you're being moved to Indianapolis. Traded to Indianapolis.
Being moved to Indianapolis. So, like, when the heck did
Here's
that
the
happen?
new playbook.
Yeah.
Learn it.
Dump it on
Read
your
it, learn it, know it, sleep it.
When did that happen? Oh,
overnight.
Last night at midnight.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
So, but yeah, Donald Brown again. Number 3 or flex, I think, for the Arizona matchup next week. Chris Johnson of Tennessee. Finally starting to look like the Chris Johnson of old. 17 carries, 86 yards with 2 touchdowns this week. He's finally getting, he's still not putting up the yardage that he used to, but as long as he finds that end zone, that's huge for Chris Johnson's owners. Again, Tennessee going up against Oakland next week. Now, that Oakland defense tends to play better at home from what I've noticed. So maybe, again, not a great, elite matchup next week, but still, you can't sit Chris Johnson. I mean, not when he's doing this well. I think you just can't afford to sit Chris Johnson. Welcome back to Fantasy Relevance. One Ray Rice. Speaking of fantasy disappointments, he has been a hair puller for his owners this year, as he has not exactly had the best of weeks. But this week against Chicago, big week for him. 25 carries, 131 yards, and a touchdown, plus 3 catches for 17. So that's what you normally expect out of Ray Rice. You expect double-digit points. You expect strong performances from him. He finally gave it to his owners last week. And next week, the Jets. What would you say? Rice a must start against the Jets?
I'd say so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd agree with that assessment.
Okay, so we'll keep rolling with him. Same game, Matt Forte. Usually roll with Matt Forte every single week. Matt Forte is going to give you buku points on a weekly basis. 18 carries, 83 yards, but he also had 5 catches for 42 and a touchdown. So again, he's one of those dynamic backs out of the backfield that can make plays. Now, here's another surprising one. And Nate, I've mentioned this to you. What's going to be our biggest fantasy F-up of the year?
I don't know.
4th round, drafting Monty Ball.
Yeah.
He has been one of the biggest disappointments, but look where he ranks this week. 15 fantasy points this week. 8 carries for 25 yards, 2 touchdowns. Plus, he had 3 catches for 16. I don't know. Denver's running back situation this year has really been squirrely, with Ball and Moreno and Hillman. And I mean, can you really count on any of these guys on a weekly basis?
I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
I mean, shoot, one week they played rock, paper, scissors to decide who would score a touchdown.
Did they really?
True story. No, that is a true story. Yes, that is a true story.
Okay, since when did the NFL become elementary school?
Exactly. So, I don't know. I mean,
or is it just that sad?
It might be. I mean, well, we got Peyton Manning. We can throw a lot, but our running backs, we won't pick one. We'll just let all 3 play. So, and I don't know if you noticed, Nate, when you were playing against me in Madden last night with Denver.
Yeah.
Hillman was your main guy, not Moreno, but you sometimes had 2 running back sets and you had Ball in the backfield with you. So, I noticed that last night. So, I mean, Moreno's been the main guy all year. So, probably you still can't set Moreno, but can you really rely on Ball going forward? And I can't say so.
Not this year.
I really can't. I really can't. Maybe give him time. This is a rookie year. Give him time. So, and I learned that. We learned that. I mainly learned that the hard way.
Yeah, he's all touting Monty Ball. Oh, let's go. I kind of had to bring him down. I mean, he's a rookie.
Yeah.
Not exactly.
Let's see. Chris Ivory of the Jets has come on strong of late. 15 carries, 98 yards with a touchdown. He's clearly the lead back now in the Jets' backfield. He had 15 fantasy points. Going up against Baltimore this week, well, if Forte can do to Baltimore what, if Forte can do that, it makes you wonder what Chris Ivory can do. I think he's a decent number 2 flex play this coming week. I think he's strong. Let's see. Anton Smith of Atlanta. Never heard of that guy before. But he only had 2 carries for 88 yards and a touchdown. Don't buy into that. That's chasing touchdowns and points. Joique Bell of Detroit surprisingly outscored Reggie Bush. Don't see that very often. 9 carries for 49 yards with a touchdown, plus 3 catches for 48. Now, we had Joique Bell earlier in the year as one of our number 2 flex guys and did some nice things for us. And so, he's another one of those running backs that's kind of dynamic where you can use him out of the backfield and in different situations. So, again, if you're looking at, a strong flex play, and Detroit going up against Tampa the coming week, not a great defense. So, Bell could be a good number 2 or flex territory for you. Ryan Matthews of San Diego. Usually can always count on good things from Ryan Matthews usually. He's been pretty consistent all year. 19 carries, $127. Also had 2 catches for 16, so 13 fantasy points this week for Matthews. I think you can keep rolling with him. Now, again, the matchup next week, tough though. Kansas City. That defense normally very tough, as we've seen all year, but tough to sit Ryan Matthews though. So, let's see. Ben Tate of Houston has done a nice job filling in for Arian Foster. He's and here's the more brave thing. He's playing with 4 cracked ribs. He's a brave boy. Mm-hmm. Tate had 19 carries for 88 yards plus 4 catches for 29. So 10 fantasy points for Tate. Houston next week again, going up against Jacksonville. Start your Texans. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you. You're going to reap the rewards. Eddie Lacy of Green Bay, another good week, 10 fantasy points. You can keep rolling with him. Redskins, Darrell Young, Alfred Morris. Now, Darrell Young is mostly just vulturing touchdowns from Alfred Morris. Alfred Morris is the lead back. He had 22 carries, 93 yards. The problem is Mike Shanahan hates fantasy football. He does, because he always has his backup running backs steal touchdowns from the main running back. So, yeah, in fantasy football circles, Mike Shanahan is a dick. So, but Alfred Morris, I mean, you really can't sit him again. Number 2 play. He gets the bulk of the carries. Might not get the touchdowns, but he's going to get the bulk of the yardage.
Can you hate fantasy football and be an American?
I know, right? Exactly.
I'm sorry.
I know. Exactly. Exactly.
And we live in a country free.
Absolutely. MJD, Maurice Jones-Drew, 9 fantasy points this week, 14 carries, 23 yards, and a touchdown. The touchdown saved his fantasy day. But that was expected against that tough Cardinals defense. Really, Jaguars, I think outside of Jones-Drew, you're not really starting any. No. That was well put. No. Giovanni Bernard of Cincinnati. Gio Bernard, again, one of those dynamic running backs. 10 carries for 45 yards, but also 4 catches for 41. That's 8 fantasy points. That's a decent number 2 running back day. But again, Cincinnati on a bye next week, so you're not going to have Bernard this coming week. Make sure you have a backup plan. Andre Brown of the Giants. I'm glad that I found him off the wire for us, because first week back, 17 fantasy points. His first game back after a broken leg. First game back, 17 points. This week, 8-point performance. He's clearly now the lead back in the Giants' backfield.
Yeah.
He's going to get the bulk of the work. 18 carries, 66 yards, along with 3 catches for 27. Next week, the Giants, they go up against Dallas. That's always a fun rivalry, always a fun matchup. I think Andre Brown will get a lot of work in that game. I like what I see from Andre Brown. I really do. Le'Veon Bell of Pittsburgh, 8 fantasy points, 18 carries, 36 yards, but also 4 catches for 52. So they're working Bell into the passing offense with Pittsburgh as well. I think he's a good option going forward. And after this, though, again, pretty big drop-off. Rashard Mendenhall of Arizona. Not sold on him because he's kind of lost the starting job to Andre Ellington, so I'm not sold on Mendy. Plus, he's getting up there in age as well. Yeah. Pierre Thomas, Chris Ogbonnaya. Now, Jamal Charles at Kansas City. Normally a pretty strong top option, but Denver's defense apparently was ready for him this week because he only had 16 carries, 78 yards, and did not find the end zone. That's surprising for Jamal Charles because normally he's going to be a number 1 guy for you. Very surprised, but again, maybe that's a product of Alex Smith getting those passing touchdowns.
Ooh.
Yeah. But I don't think you can sit Jamal Charles going forward. I think he's still a strong option. Again, we talked about Noshawn Moreno. He's probably too good to sit. Adrian Peterson, tough go this week. But, oh, by the way, he was playing Seattle at Seattle. And we know the Seahawks defense is buku.
Yeah.
21 carries, but only 65 yards. So you knew the AP was going to have a tough week, but you can't sit Adrian Peterson. Just, you can't do it. He's on the cover of PS4 Madden 25, for God's sake. You can't sit Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
And let's see if there's anyone on the second page worth noting here. Usually at this point, we're getting really into the depths of running backs. Yeah. Steven Jackson of Atlanta. Yeah, he's back healthy, but not really sold on him. You know, these guys. There's Trent Richardson. Only 5 fantasy points this week for T-Rich. Frank Gore had a rough go this week. Only 13 carries for 48 yards. But again, too good to sit going forward. Buffalo running backs, Fred Jackson, C.J. Spiller. Tough go this week. There's Reggie Bush. I wondered how he did. And only 12 carries for 31 yards. And 2 catches for 23 and lost a fumble. Maybe that's why Bell was able to do so well, because Bush got in Coach Jim Schwartz's doghouse with that fumble.
Yeah.
I'm guessing maybe that's why. So we'll have to see how that situation plays itself out. Danny Woodhead, the Chargers offense as a whole had a rough go this week. Only 3 fantasy points, 5 carries, 21 yards, 2 catches for 16. But the Dolphins defense has been strong at times this year, so I think that's just a product of the matchup. I think,
maybe
normally Woodhead's a pretty reliable option going forward. Darren Sproles of the Saints, surprising only 3 carries for 16 yards, 4 catches for 19. That's definitely a very un-Darren Sproles-like day as well. Again, more of a number 2 or a flex play for me. And after that, yeah, big drop-off. Okay. Moving on now to the wide receivers for the week. And for us, I think across the board, there's always some good performances, but for us, tough go with the wideout this week. Our guys did not find the end zone. And it's always tough on wideout when your guys just can't seem to find it. But a lot of guys did find it, like, Nate, I wonder who's number 1 at wide receiver. Calvin Johnson. It's been Calvin Johnson. It's been Calvin Johnson mostly every single week. 6 catches, 179 yards, 2 touchdowns, 29 fantasy points. If you have Calvin Johnson on your team, if you can do it, you're probably doing backflips in your living room.
I'd say so.
You are just he puts up buku stats every week. He's one of the most consistent options in the league. So it doesn't matter the matchup. We don't have to tell you the matchup. You're starting Calvin Johnson.
Yeah.
Antonio Brown of Pittsburgh, we talked briefly about him, how Pittsburgh's receivers with Big Ben and getting them involved. He's the number 1 guy in Pittsburgh, clearly. Brown, 7 catches on 13 targets, 147 yards, 2 scores. He's been the main guy all year. If Big Ben's going to keep getting his receivers involved, he's going to keep looking his way. Obviously, a must-start option as well for Antonio Brown. Now, Michael Floyd of Arizona, that's an interesting one. Usually in Arizona, you think the top guy is Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
You usually think he's the top dog in Arizona. Well, these young guys are starting to come up strong, like Michael Floyd, like Andre Roberts, like the tight end Rob Hausler. These guys are really starting to get more involved, so I don't know if that means that Fitzgerald's prime is past him going forward.
I would say so.
Yeah.
He's getting there. He's been in the league for what?
He's been in the league since Kurt Warner was his quarterback, do you recall? So, yeah. But I don't know if you remember when Michael Floyd played at Notre Dame. No? Well, he was pretty sick at Notre Dame, I'm just saying. But again, 6 catches, 193 yards with a touchdown, 25 fantasy points. Now, again, they were playing Jacksonville that week, so that's not going to happen every single week. But again, going up against that Colts secondary next week, maybe you look at Floyd. Maybe he's a number 3 with upside.
Maybe
if you have bye weeks again, there's 6 teams on bye next week. So again, if you're desperate, a receiver needs some help, maybe Michael Floyd's out there in your league and you can plug him in. Vincent Jackson, no shocker here. Toward the top of the list, took 10 catches, $165 and a touchdown, 22 points. Mike Glennon loves throwing him the ball. We know this. He's the top target anywhere he goes. In San Diego for a long time for Phillip Rivers, he was the top target. Yeah. Now he's here in Tampa Bay. Oh, by the way, top target. So you can keep rolling with B-Jack. He's going to be good for you. Now Atlanta's top option, now that Julio Jones is done for the year, is Harry Douglas. And Harry had a pretty good week this week. 6 catches on 9 targets, 134 yards, and a touchdown, so 19 fantasy points. There was a lot of talk after Julio went down that Douglas would be the top guy now, at least in the receiving out. You still have Tony Gonzalez. So you still have Tony Gonzalez. He's a strong option. But Douglas now starting to get more involved. Ryan's got to throw to somebody. Yes, we know his receiving core is decimated.
Yeah.
But got to throw to somebody. Harry Douglas has been on the roster now, the longest at receiver. So, again, I look at him again going forward as a, again, number 3 with upside. Maybe borderline 2 depending on the matchup, but I think that's how I have to view him going forward because of the fact that Ryan's, been hit or miss lately. But as long as he finds the end zone, that's really what's important. And again, going up against the Saints on that Thursday night game this week, I don't know how much they're going to shadow him. That's really the concern you have to have with him. How much are they going to cover? Yeah. Are they going to focus on Gonzalez? Are they going to focus on him? But again, I only see him as like a desperate number 3. Josh Gordon to Cleveland. That guy's sick. I mean, Josh Gordon is just a very strong offensive weapon. Cleveland didn't have very many offensive weapons, but Josh Gordon certainly is one of them, along with their tight end, Jordan Cameron. Of course, Cleveland's quarterback situation this year has been an absolute mess. Brandon Weeden, he's old. Brian Hoyer tore up his knee. So now you got Jason Campbell as your quarterback. And although lately he's been doing okay. I mean, if you have weapons around that can make your quarterback better, I mean, it can certainly pay dividends for you. And Josh Gordon, now the only bad thing about Gordon here, you look at the stats. He was targeted 15 times. He only caught 5 of them. Ouch. So that's definitely a red flag. But still, 125 yards with a touchdown. Can't sit Josh Gordon. I think he's just too good on a consistent basis to sit. Jarris Wright of Minnesota. There's a name I haven't seen since his days in Buffalo. That's definitely a surprising name. But here's the thing, not targeted enough. Only 4 targets, 3 catches, 69 yards. They have 2 touchdowns, but that's the first time he kind of had a breakout game. And Minnesota, oh, by the way, their quarterback is Christian freaking Ponder, which I'm not sold on. So
yeah,
you notice, I don't know if you notice names. Some of these quarterbacks I give nicknames to. Christian freaking Ponder, Blaine Godawful Gabbert. Some of these quarterbacks, they're just so bad. So, not sold on him. And Marquise Goodwin, Rod Streeter, these are more little-known guys that, yeah, they get touchdowns occasionally, but not consistent options. TJ Graham, they're all free agents. Now, oh, there's a name we know, Demaryius Thomas. Any Denver receiver, you're usually going to usually start. Demaryius Thomas, Eric Decker, Wes Welker. 12 points this week for Demaryius, so you're going to keep, and this guy knows. He killed me with Demaryius Thomas on Madden last night. Killed me with him. Keeps throwing to him and Joel Dreesen, the tight end. And then he gets hurt, but he's still throwing to Tammy. And this was against New England. Against New England.
This guy can't defend against the short pass.
I couldn't defend against anything. Anything. Okay? No matter what I called, except for one blitz where I got Manning for a loss of 12. That was it.
Oh, and by the way, if you get the chance to get the PS4 and Madden 25,
sick. Yes. Must. Highly recommended.
Sick.
2 thumbs up. Yeah.
Yeah. I even made the comment for you more adult viewers, creaming your jeans. That's
Yeah. Hope we have no kids,
Sorry, guys.
But of course. Doug Baldwin of Seattle. Look, Seattle's receiving core just going to get better now that Harvin's back. With him, Golden Tate, Baldwin. These guys, again, now I think Harvin and Tate are still must-starts with Russell Wilson at quarterback. Baldwin, more of a number 3 or number 4, I think. He certainly does have a nose for the end zone, but only targeted twice. So if you don't get the targets, you're not going to get a lot of the work.
Yeah. There's
Fitzgerald. Actually had a decent week. 6 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown. So him and Floyd both did pretty well. So again, you can't sit Larry Fitz. Just can't sit him. Anquan Bolden of San Francisco. Nice to see him have a good week. 6 catches, 56 yards, and a touchdown for the Niners. So
11 points.
11 points, yep. So good week for him. Again, the San Francisco receiving core getting stronger, getting healthier. So it's only going to help Kaepernick and the rest of that receiving core. I think San Francisco receivers are going to be good going forward. Victor Cruz of the Giants.
Cruz only had 11 points? What?
Well, he was targeted 11 times. He caught 8 of them, 110 yards. Even though the Giants have struggled this year and Eli struggled, he still finds his top weapons. He finds Cruz. He finds Akeem Nicks.
I would think he would have more than 11 points.
True. He didn't find the end zone either. So yeah.
Well, that
hurts.
You're gonna get most of your points on
touchdowns
finding the end zone.
Yes.
Yeah. Definitely.
Jordy Nelson of Green Bay also had 11 points, 8 catches, $117. Clearly now the main weapon in Green Bay now. You got Randall Cobb out, James Jones struggling or hurt, Jermichael Finley out. So someone's got to step up and be the top receiver, and Jordy Nelson is as consistent option as there is out there. Even though right now no Aaron Rodgers at quarterback with the collarbone injury, you still got Tolzien playing well. So I don't think you can sit Jordy Nelson. I think he's still going to be good. Andre Johnson, obviously, usually good every single week. And with Keenum as his quarterback, he's doing much better than he was with Schaub. Yeah. 10 catches, 116 yards. Didn't find the end zone this week, but 17 targets, though.
Well, that's because Keenum actually knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Dwayne Bowe of Kansas City. Hey, how about this? Dwayne Bowe. Dwayne Bowe. I don't know if you heard the news late. Dwayne Bowe. And Nate's getting a phone call.
Hello.
Anywho, while Nate's taking that phone call, I'll just fill you guys in here real quick on the rest of these. Dwayne Bowe, get this on Dwayne Bowe. He got arrested. Dwayne Bowe did for, I believe it was either DUI or marijuana. And he plays the following week. He plays in the same game. Targeted 14 times, only made 4 catches, but did have 57 yards and a touchdown. So Dwayne Bowe, 11 fantasy points. Again, Kansas City going up against San Diego next week. That's not a bad matchup for Dwayne Bowe, but he hasn't been a must-start all year, just like Alex Smith is quarterback. So I would say for Dwayne Bowe, again, more of a number 2, number 3. Not fully sold on him. Now, he mentioned the Pittsburgh receivers, Jericho Cotchery of Pittsburgh. 3 catches, 48 yards, and a touchdown. So, again, as Big Ben gets these receivers involved, he could be a player with upside going forward. I think the team that we face this week, Peter's dusty. The team we faced this week had Cotchery on it as an opponent. So, not this week, but a team that is top in our division. So, again, as the receivers get involved, I think, again, more of a number 3. Obviously, Antonio Brown's the must-start, but guys like Emmanuel Sanders, Jericho Cotchery, these guys are more number 3s. Are you done?
Yes.
Okay. It's okay. I only got two receivers, but I can tell you the Dwayne Bowe story. Because I got to share with you the Dwayne Bowe story.
Yeah, I kind of missed that.
Yeah. Okay.
I heard DUI.
Yeah. No. Yeah. No. Here's the thing with Bowe. What are you doing? Oh, getting your drink. Okay. Here's the thing with Dwayne Bowe. He got arrested for DUI and marijuana possession. Okay. Marijuana was in his car.
Who is he? Yes.
The Kansas City receiver.
Yes. I read that in the sports page.
Yeah, and he played.
I guess what I read is due to the collective bargaining agreement.
Okay.
They're not really allowed to hand out punishments yet.
Okay.
I guess from what I read at the article at a glance is they gotta do the investigation, and then whatever is found out of that, let the legal system take its course.
Sure.
And then the NFL can step in after the legalities.
Okay. So, but like I said, if Smith keeps connecting with him, I rated Bowe as kind of a number 2, number 3 option. Mm-hmm. And then I talked about Cotchery of Pittsburgh and the Pittsburgh receiving core. We talked about them a little bit. Again, Brown and Mustard, the other guys, more number 3 options. Ruben Randall of the Giants, we had him briefly earlier in the year, and he was putting up decent numbers, but The problem with Randall, though, he's not targeted enough. That's his big issue. Victor Cruz and Akeem Nicks are the main guys, and he's just not targeted enough. Now, he does put up touchdowns, but didn't get the yardage. Only 3 catches, 37 yards, and a score. More of a desperation number 3 or a flex. Jarrett Boykin of Green Bay, 6 catches, 91 yards. Another good week for him. As long as Tolzien keeps feeding him the ball, I think he'll be okay. Alshon Jeffrey of Chicago, we had him briefly. He didn't do much earlier in the year, but he's starting to come on of late. 7 catches on 11 targets for 83 yards. Also had 3 rushes for 17 yards. That's interesting for a wide receiver. No, I'm going to see wide receivers run. So, again, with Chicago next week, they're going up against the Rams. The Rams are known for that pass rush, so I don't know how much they'll try to shut down him and Brandon Marshall. We'll see what happens there. We'll see if the Bears get Cutler back. Obviously, Marshall's a must-start. What would you say about Jeffrey? Number 3 flex?
I honestly don't know who he is.
Yeah. He's kind of the second option in Chicago. Torrey Smith of the Ravens, their main threats, 5 catches, 32 yards, and a touchdown on 8 targets. I think he's okay to be a starter going forward. Kendall Wright of Tennessee, decent week, another good week for him. 9 catches on 12 targets for 80 yards. They're really starting to feed him the ball in Tennessee. Going up against Oakland next week. I like Wright as a number 3 option for you. Deshaun Jackson, obviously with Philly and that offense with Deshaun Jackson strong. 4 catches, 82 yards. Now, again, you won't have the Philly receivers next week, so remember that. Keep that in mind. Just keep them on your bench due to the bye. Marcus Colston, decent week this week. 5 catches, 80 yards for the Saints. I think you can keep rolling with him. I said Wes Welker, 8 catches on 10 targets, 72 yards, 7 points.
I'm surprised to see that he only had 7 points there.
Well, here's the thing, though, with the Denver receiving core, there's so many mouths to feed.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Thomas can have a buku week, and then Decker and Welker don't have so much. Mm-hmm. Or 2 of them have good weeks, and one gets the short straw, if you know what I mean. So that's why, but you can't afford to sit them, because you don't know what they're going to do on a week-by-week basis. And then just to see if the second page here, if anyone's noteworthy. Roddy White of Atlanta. I think the ankle's still bugging him. I mean, yeah, he was targeted 9 times, but only 3 catches for 36 yards. He did have a touchdown, but also lost a fumble. I don't know if you can really rely on Roddy White going forward. Normally you can, but with the way Ryan's been struggling in his health, I'm not sure you can really rely on him. Pierre Garçon of Washington, 6 catches on 10 targets, 68 yards. That's a decent week. Normally Garçon is pretty reliable, the main weapon in Washington, so I think he's going to bounce back. Mm-hmm. I think he'll be okay once they come off the bye. There's Hakeem Nicks, 4 catches for 50 yards. So again, not great. Next week, the Giants, though, or again, that Dallas matchup, I think that could be a shootout. I really do. I think Dallas has been involved in some high-scoring games this year, so I think that could be a shootout. So I think you could be okay with Nicks and Cruz. James Jones, targeted 6 times, but only 2 catches for 50-55, so not great there. After that, though. Now, Keenan Allen, we need to talk about Keenan Allen because not only is Keenan Allen one of our guys, but there was a situation we read about on Roto World. He only had 3 catches, 45 yards. Of course, the Chargers didn't do much against Miami, but we've read reports, the knee injury that he suffered, hyperextension, no ligament damage. So
probably hurt like the dickens.
Oh, I'm sure it did, but he was, and Roto World said he was not limping and going to the locker room, so that's also a good sign. So Keenan Allen should be okay going forward, so we breathe another sigh of relief because we've been hit by the injury bug. Well, not major this season, but at least a couple times. So we can't afford any more, not especially with the playoffs looming in the rearview mirror. Surprising that T.Y. Hilton was cold this week. 9 targets, but only 5 catches for 44 yards. And normally he's been the most consistent receiving threat in Reggie Wayne's absence.
4 points?
4 points. Yeah, for T.Y. Yeah, that's certainly concerning. And Arizona next week, the Arizona secondary, they're going to be focused on him. Patrick Peterson's going to be over him like a shadow.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about T.Y. Hilton for his owners next week. I'm a little concerned. I mean, I don't know if you can afford to sit him, but he's not a must start.
Yeah.
I can't recommend as a must start. Brandon Marshall targeted 10 times, but only 4 catches last week for 42. I don't know if that's a product of the fact that Josh McCown right now is the Bears quarterback and not Jay Cutler. I don't know, but we'll see on that. Riley Cooper this week targeted 7 times. Well, that's good, but only 3 catches for 37. He had a touchdown kind of taken off the board. He was close to a touchdown, but they didn't challenge it. They thought it looked like he broke the goal line. It turned out he might have maybe not have. The refs ruled him down at the 1, so that's tough. Riley Cooper's been a touchdown machine lately, which is why he was a good acquisition for us. So I think he'll be okay moving forward.
Oh, I just hope that's not a mainstay.
Yes, exactly.
Yuck.
Exactly. And then after that, big drop-off. These are guys in our line. Mike Wallace. Mike Wallace, why'd you take the money and run to Miami? You were doing just fine with Big Ben in Pittsburgh, and then you moved to Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback? Really? No wonder Mike Wallace is sucking balls this year.
There's his stat, folks. Yeah.
So, yeah, after that, no one of relevance. Okay, moving on to tight ends. And tight ends, normally a hit-or-miss position. Not a lot of elite tight ends in the league. Top tight end, Garrett Graham of Houston. Case Keenum, finding him the ball. 13 targets for a tight end. You normally don't see that unless it's Gronk or Jimmy Graham, you know. But Garrett Graham, the other Graham, I almost said the other white Graham. Oops. I was thinking the other white meat or something, and it came out and I almost said it.
How? Okay.
I don't know.
I'm going to just leave that one alone, folks. How do you...
I have no idea why that was on the brain. Woo! But 13 targets.
Are you still hungry?
We ate before the show. I have no idea. 13, there's one for the blooper reel. 13 targets for 7 catches and $136 with a touchdown and a fumble lost. So, as long as Case Keenum keeps giving the ball to Garrett Graham, I think he's an okay starting up, or at least fill-in option for you. And again, Houston playing Jacksonville this week. Start your Texans.
Graham, the other white meat.
No, what I think I was going to say was there was Jimmy Graham and then Garrett Graham. So then I said the other Graham, and I almost said the other white Graham. But Jimmy Graham's not racial, is he? Not that I'm aware of. I don't know why I was thinking white. I have no idea. That's just something to woo.
Did you get enough sleep last night?
No, I got 7 hours. Oh boy, there's a memory. All right.
By the way, I've known this cat for almost 20
years. So yeah. Our humor,
we rib on each other.
It just happens.
We rib on each other like nobody's business.
It just happens. That just woo. All right. Charles Clay in Miami. Has been filling in nicely for Dustin Keller this year in Miami. Even though Tannehill's not a great quarterback, if he can find his tight end the ball, that's what matters. 6 catches, 90 yards with a touchdown. Again, a nice number 2 option with upside if you're hurting at tight end, you're desperate. I think you can use Charles Clay. Delaney Walker of Tennessee is also someone that's come on strong. With Fitzpatrick as Tennessee's quarterback and Jake Locker out for the year with his injury, with that foot injury, Walker's starting to get a lot of touchdowns in games. So look at that. Look at this statistic. Caught all 10 of his targets.
Dang.
All 10. 91 yards and a score for Delaney Walker.
Nice.
I think if he keeps getting that production, he could be a borderline starting option for you. If you're hurting at tight end.
Dang you, Dirty Birds.
Yeah. Dirty Birds is a good team. Although we beat them by 40 last week.
Suck.
Antonio Gates. Another one of those consistent tight ends you can rely on every single week. 4 catches, 52 yards, found the end zone this week, 11 points, so you can keep rolling with him. Michael Rivera of Oakland, he's kind of been an up and down, hit and miss this season, but caught 5 targets last week for 5 catches, 54 yards and a score, 11 fantasy points. Again, I see him as more of a number 2 or a bye-week fill-in. You don't know what he's going to do on a week-by-week basis, especially with the Oakland quarterback situation, kind of, But Julius Thomas of Denver has been one of the great, nice stories of the year. Again, you're starting any Bronco usually, but Thomas, 3 catches, 43 yards, and a score. Keep rolling with him. Kobe Fleener. Look at that, Nate. Kobe Fleener had a good week this week. 8 catches on 10 targets for 107 yards, 10 fantasy points.
Why couldn't you have done this well when we had you?
Exactly. I'm quite surprised by that. Hey, Kobe, where were you?
Yeah.
Kobe Fleener, more like an injured Kobe Bryant. Oh!
Ouch! Stab, twist, turn, pull. Oh.
So I don't know. Going forward,
that was low.
Yeah, it was. But again, you know, you go after him when he does poorly, and then all of a sudden he's a free agent and he goes buku.
So we need to get him again, maybe.
Going up against Arizona. Like Fleener, don't like Fleener. Yay, nay.
Up in the air.
Up in the air. Okay.
I have to say I'm up in the air on that one.
Okay. Vernon Davis, been good all year. 4 catches, 33 yards, touchdown. He's finally fully healthy again. He's a good starting option going
9
forward.
9 points for a tight end?
Yes.
Not too bad.
Not too bad, no. Tight ends are a dime a dozen in the fantasy. We don't know who you're going to get. Jeff Cumberland of the Jets had a touchdown, but not enough targets. See, after this, it's a big drop-off. These guys don't get enough targets on a week-by-week basis. Fasano, Ladarius Green. Now, there's Jermaine Gresham of Cincinnati. 6 targets, but only 2 catches. 27 yards. Did have a touchdown, but again, Cincinnati's tight ends, you kind of have a 2-headed monster there because you have Gresham and you have Tyler Eifert. And, of course, you have A.J. Green. So you don't know what tight end's going to do well on a week-by-week basis. So if you have either of these guys, maybe, again, more number 2s or out of desperation because, again, you don't know which one's going to get the bulk of the work. There's Tony Gonzalez. 6 catches on 8 targets for 51 yards. Looks like he also had a 2-point conversion. So 7 fantasy points for TG. Even though Ryan's struggling, I don't think you can afford to sit Gonzalez. Rob Hausler of Arizona started to get a little more involved in the offense. 6 catches, 70 yards. So, again, 7 fantasy points. But, again, they were going against Jacksonville this week, so I don't know if that's a week-by-week thing for him. Again, more of a desperation, I think, number 2, number 3 for you. Heath Miller of Pittsburgh. Nice to see him back fully healthy after the knee injury last year. 8 catches, 67 yards. I just love it when the Steelers fans go, Heath. Yeah. I love that chant. So, John Carlson of Minnesota, we got him his insurance off the wire, and he got a pretty good week again this week. 5 catches, 69 yards, filling in nicely for the injured Kyle Rudolph. I have to think of the name. So he's filling in nicely again. Desperate number 2, number 3 for you. Martellus Bennett of Chicago, only 2 catches for 48 yards. That's certainly surprising. But again, I think it's the fact that McCown's at quarterback because Keller loved throwing Bennett the ball. There's Jimmy Graham. Surprisingly, though, for Graham, only 6 catches for 41 yards. Did not find the end zone this week. Normally, you don't see that in Jimmy Graham. Yeah. We've had Jimmy Graham the last 2 years. I was just going to say
he was one of our big guys, wasn't he?
Yes. Yeah, he was our starting tight end the last 2 years and went usually buku every week, except late last year when he was in that slump. So that's definitely hopefully that's not a product of the normal going forward. Usually Drew Brees loves throwing to Jimmy Graham. So, and if you're targeted 11 times, so he should be all right. Brent Selleck of Philly, not sold on him. Only 1 catch for 42 yards. Scott Chandler of Buffalo, no. Dallas Clark, pretty big drop-off at this point. Brandon Pettigrew, not sold on any of those guys. All right, real quick now, we'll go into the kickers and DSTs for the week, how they fared. Number 1 kicker, Vinny. Adam Vinatieri of the Colts was the number 1 kicker this week. 14 fantasy points against the Titans. Was perfect in field goals and perfect in extra points, including a long of 50, which in CBS leagues you get 2 extra points for those long field goals.
How does a kicker get 14 points?
Well, you think about it. 3, 6. The 3 extra points is 9, and then the field goal, the long one, is 5 for 14.
I thought an extra point was 1 point.
He had 3 extra points. Yeah,
okay.
3 extra points for 3. Then the field goals, 3 and 6, 9, and then the long one makes 14. So yeah, Vinny a good week this week. Arizona next week. I'd say that's still a good, strong starting option.
Yeah. Mr. Clutch, as I like to call him.
Yeah.
Certainly better than Vander Choke.
Yeah.
Do you remember we got Vinatieri after Vanderjet? So.
Yes. When Peyton Manning calls you an idiot kicker, you're probably off the roster. At the Pro Bowl, no less.
Yep. Ouch. That's a stab to the pride.
Yeah.
I bet he felt...
Just a little.
Yeah,
just a little. Randy Bullock of Houston, he's a nice surprise. He had 13 points last week. Here's a guy. Graham going John Madden. Here's a guy in Randy Bullock that was in danger of losing his job a couple weeks ago because he was missing kicks left and right, and now he goes off for 13 points this week. I think Houston should stick with him. Stephen Hauschka of Seattle, he's been good all year. 13 fantasy points again for him. Sean Sweesham of Pittsburgh, a good week for him, 13 fantasy points. Nick Novak of San Diego. Matt Prater of Denver. Obviously, Denver's kicker is going to be strong every week. We know this. Robbie Gould, 11 points for him this week.
He's always in the discussion.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Ryan Lindell of Tampa Bay, 11 fantasy points. Mike Nugent of Cincinnati, a good week. There's Garrett Hartley, our kicker from the Saints. Again, kind of in the same boat as Bullock. The Saints were trying out kickers because Hartley had missed his last 4 field goal attempts. He was 2 of 6 recent field goals. This week, perfect, 11 fantasy points.
Nice.
Yeah, I think he's going to be okay. Other double-digit kickers include Justin Tucker of Baltimore, Phil Dawson of San Francisco, double digits. Then after that, still some solid weeks. 9 points for Mason Crosby, David Akers, Jay Feely, Rob Baronis, Josh Brown. So some good weeks from those guys. Some names you really well know. Blair Walsh of Minnesota, 8 points. Yep, good week for him.
Billy Cundiff.
Billy Cundiff of Cleveland, yep. Caleb Sturgis of Miami. And then after that, big drop-off.
0-0.
Well, those are free agents. Those don't kick. They had bye weeks. The worst kicker of the week, surprise, surprise, Josh Scobie of Jacksonville. 2 points. 2 points.
Oh, yeah.
Any Jaguar usually ranks last.
Suck.
Yeah. And finally, before we preview the Monday night matchup, DST. Number 1, your Cincinnati Bengals. 28 fantasy points this week against the Browns.
Dang.
The Bengals D, dude, has been strong all year. I mean, 3 picks in that game, 4 sacks, a fumble recovery, and 2 defensive touchdowns. I mean, you have the Bengals D again. You're the one with Calvin. If you have Calvin Johnson and the Bengals DST, you're doing multiple backflips in your living room.
Trident.
Yeah, Trident 17-12. He won by 1 point this week. 1.
Your defense scores 28 points and you only win by 1 point. How?
The rest of his roster is decimated, apparently. Surprising, the Bills DST did well this week. 24 fantasy points against the Jets. 3 picks, 4 sacks, a defensive fumble recovery, a defensive touchdown, and only allowed 14 points. But the Jets offense has not been buku this year.
No.
Rookie quarterback, young running backs, young receiving core. Yeah. So that was a good matchup for them. Seahawks DST, always strong. Keep rolling with them. Giants DST, they've come on strong of late. 18 fantasy points this week. Can you believe the Giants, after an 0-6 start, have won 3 straight and are only a game and a half out of the division?
Huh.
They still have a chance. There's still a puncher's chance they can make some noise. So, who would have thunk?
Yeah.
NFC East, more like NFC least.
Ouch. He'll be here all week.
Bears DST, 17 points against the Ravens this week, and that surprised the heck out of Nate because we drafted the Bears DST earlier in the year. They sucked major ballsage, and now they're doing 17 points on a weekly basis.
Ballsage?
Ballsage? Ballsage or ballsitch?
Oh. Wow. Okay. Here's the line. Here's them. I don't know where I'm at in the frame, but yeah.
We're really going now.
Yeah, okay, we apologized to the kids earlier.
Yeah, that one, again.
Wow.
We hope we have adult subscribers. Oh, boy.
Hey, it ain't like they don't hear it at school.
This is true.
Unfortunately.
Other double-digit weeks, Bucks DST, 15 points. Saints
DST,
12 points. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I guess.
That's a good week, yeah. Browns DST, 14. Eagles DST, 12. Chargers DST, 10. And Steelers DST, 10.
And then it looks like...
Worst DST of the week?
Drop-off.
Lions.
What?
1 fantasy point. Joining the likes of the Titans, Vikings, and Jets for the worst this week. 1 fantasy point.
I would have guessed Jacksonville.
I would have...
Sucky as they are.
Well, maybe they had a 0, did they? No. Where is the Jaguars DST?
Were they on bye?
No, they played Arizona. Oh. 5 fantasy points.
Ooh, yippee. Ooh,
yeah.
Coming to take me away.
Yeah, so they were not the worst, surprisingly. They were not the worst.
That is surprising.
Tennessee against the Colts, I guess kind of expected.
Yeah.
Vikings against Seattle, expected. Lions against Pittsburgh, I guess sort of expected because Big Ben went buku.
Yeah.
And Jets against Buffalo. That's, I guess, the surprising one to me.
Okay.
So, all right, that's the Sunday recap. Now we look forward to tonight's Monday matchup as we close the show this week. We look forward to the big showdown tonight between the Panthers and the Patriots. Are the Panthers legit? That's going to be the big question, I think, that we find out tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to New England in hostile territory. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say at New England, if the Panthers can have a good showing, yeah.
Yeah. So we look at Carolina's guys. Cam Newton. Like him, love him, hate him?
I like him.
Okay. I think he's going to put up, New England secondary. Yes, they have Talib back there in the secondary. You hate Akeem Talib. Oh, he hates Akeem Talib. Every time I broke up past Talib last night, I hate Akeem Talib.
Oh, and then, yeah, I watched him earlier this year against Atlanta. What was it?
Yes, Atlanta. Yeah.
I'm screaming at my TV.
He's raping his TV's ear.
Yeah.
If TV's had ears. Rabbit ears.
I was like, damn you, Talib.
Yeah. So plus Newton has that running ability. So
yes.
he'll get that too. So I think Newton is okay. Running game in Carolina, Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams, Mike Tolbert, any of these guys you think are must starts or?
I like D'Angelo Williams.
Okay.
He's probably the biggest name out of those 3.
Yeah, and coming back from, well, it was either him or Stewart that came back from the ankle injuries, but they've done pretty well of late. Yeah. Tolbert's getting a lot of the touchdown work near the goal line, so he could be a flex play too, but I think they could be good options. Receiving, you're not sitting Steve Smith.
Nope.
You're not sitting. You're not sitting Steve Smith. He's too reliable. Do not touch Brandon LaFell with a 10-foot pole. I've said it on here multiple times before. I cannot stand Brandon LaFell.
Why?
In terms of fantasy, Brandon LaFell is like hair puller extreme. Remember a couple years ago when we had Brandon LaFell, and he did absolutely nothing for us. He did jack crap. He is so inconsistent.
Yeah, what's that one, like 1 or 2 weeks?
Yeah.
And we finally just said, what?
Yeah, he's just too inconsistent for my liking. Don't like him. Greg Olsen at tight end. Do you like him?
Ish.
Yeah, I would say again number 2. Kicker Graham Gano. I think he'll be okay. And the Panthers DST though, they've been solid all year against New England, or not New England, but all year period. Now against New England with that offense, I don't know if we can rate him a must start. I don't think if you don't have a better option, I think you can sit them, but I would temper your expectations if you start them.
Okay.
Can you honestly see a double-digit week from them?
Against the Patriots, it would be very surprising.
Yes. Yeah.
I honestly say it'd be very surprising.
Yes. All right. Patriots skill players. Obviously, you're not sitting Tom Brady.
Hell no.
Yeah. Running backs. Ridley. Shane Vereen is back healthy. So I think those guys should definitely be in your lineups. And Vereen just came back, I think, Vereen comes back this week, actually. This is his return game. This is Vereen's return game from the wrist injury. So what can we expect out of him? I mean, he's the back that gets involved in the passing game. Maybe a number 2 or a flex play.
I've noticed players coming back from injuries, they usually have decent weeks.
Yes.
I think it's because they're looking for something to prove. You know, they got something to prove. Hey, I'm still good. I'm healthy. I'm okay. So I'd look for him to be involved.
Okay. So we'll go with those guys as must starts. Wideout core, Danny Amendola.
Yes.
Obviously, you're going to keep rolling with him. Now, Aaron Dobson. He's been hot of late. We got him off the wire for insurance. What do you think about Aaron Dobson? You know, maybe a hit or miss?
We'll see how he does.
Okay. I would say not a must start, but maybe, again, a desperation number 3 if you're desperate. I don't like Julian Edelman. Now that the receiving core's healthy, I don't like Edelman going forward. He's getting kind of lost in the shuffle. You're not sitting Gronk, obviously. No. You're not sitting Steven Gostkowski as kicker.
No.
Patriots DST against Carolina. Against that Carolina offense. What do you think? Do we expect double-digit numbers from them?
Maybe up in the air.
I think unless Newton and the running game just go off, I think they'll be okay. I think they'll be okay. But if they're at home, they're playing at home.
All right.
So that's an upside for them.
Yep.
So I think they could be an option you could rely on. All right, guys, that's it. We covered a lot of ground, had some fun with it. This was fun. I mean, to have you finally come on and do this, I know we've been talking about it for a long time.
How long have you been doing these?
The show's since just 2 years ago, I believe. Yeah, just started a couple years ago.
Yeah.
So, but you've been co-owner for all those years. But this was a blast. And again, you guys know that if you have any comments, questions throughout the week, feel free to leave them either down below on the video or on the channel. I will try to get to as many as I can. You guys know it's open forum, so feel free to that. If you like what you see, thumbs up the video. Tell your friends, spread the word. Thank you guys so much again for watching, and we'll see you again next week for a Week 12 recap and a Week 13 edition.
If you want to see more of me.
Yeah, exactly. Want to see more of Nate? Yeah, please let us know if you like Nate being on, because again,
it was fun, guys. It was fun, and he tells me week after week how fun it is, and I've always I've watched shows of people commentating, and it was fun. It was fun. So
all right. You know where your home for fantasy advice is. The Fantasy Football Stock Report, the FFSR. See you next week. Thanks, guys.